Good evening. It's 6 p.m. It's April 7th. It's 2021. This is Ken Goldberg's Law and Disorder podcast, which appears nightly, Monday through Saturday. If you're on YouTube, we are simultaneously podcasting on Facebook, where most of the interaction gets taking place, but you are welcome, if you're here, to comment also and interact. Everybody interact, please. Are you also welcome? Lisa, hi. Chris, Rachel, Debbie, good evening, everybody. So it's now 6:01. A minute gone, just like that. And you know what? That's a lesson in life, man. Hi, Becky. Lesson in life, man. These minutes, they're ticking. They're clicking, baby. You know? Strawberry fields forever. Nothing to get hung about. Hi, Ray Dean. So let me tell you why I picked that, because usually the topic or where they have me write topic has nothing to do with what I want to talk about. This is one of those rare moments, or I should say rare podcasts or evenings, where there may be a tangential relationship between what I posted prior to the podcast and what I actually talk about during the podcast. You're asking, Becky, how to get off the closed captioning. Tropic. Mark, you got to stop it, man. You got to go back to school. You got to learn to use sentences. You can't keep this up. And if you're there, help him. All right. So, nothing to get on about. Let me tell you. The clock is ticking. And don't know when I'm going to die. Don't even know how I'm going to die. But I know this with certainty. Absolutely, I'm going to die, right? So what do I want to get hung about? What do I want to get bent out of shape, wrapped around the axle? There's all kinds of words for it. But essentially, how do I want to live my life? And I feel I've been robbed. The pandemic didn't do near the damage that the Trump administration did, or even a lot of what was going on before Trump was elected with the Obama administration, all the racial bullshit that came up where people were calling him a commie or a Kenyan and then saying, but I'm not racist. Yeah, you were. So anyways, so I feel robbed of serenity. I feel like somebody came in the middle of the night and shook me out of a sleep and said, no, you're not going to get any REM sleep. Every time you try to get some REM, I'm going to torture your ass, right? I'm going to play rock music in the middle of the night at full blast, whatever it is. This is what the Trump administration did to me in a lot of ways. I take responsibility for that. I should have maybe not paid any attention to that administration. Once I recognized and realized what it was that was going on, maybe I should have just took a step back, stopped watching the news and said, well, I'm powerless for the next 4 years. Let's see what happens, right? But I didn't. I got engaged. And so now I'm reconfiguring. And by that I mean I'm looking around. The Republicans are hot on trying to do this post-Trump resurrection kind of, they want to resurrect the Trump era, but without Trumps. So I don't know how do you say that. But, Rachel, I don't know what you missed. So I'm not, if somebody throws a name into here, I don't know what you're doing. My closed caption's magically back. Don't know how to turn it off. I bet if you ask Google, they'll tell you. So I guess Rachel is trying to what the fuck? Let me regroup here for a minute. Rachel, I don't know what you're doing, man. Do you understand? I got to read everything you post. Okay. Let me take a breath here. 2 breaths. All right. So I'm going to stop reading what people are writing. All right. I'm going to go somewhere. I'm going to get away from watching you all talk to each other. I don't know what I'm going to do instead. Let me think. What can I do? Hold on. I'm gonna pull up like a nursery rhyme or something so that I don't get all bent. Because I was just talking about don't get hung, you know. But then shit.
Three little kittens, they lost their mittens and they began to cry. Oh, mother dear, we sadly fear that we have lost our mittens. Lost your mittens, you naughty kittens, and you shall have no pie. Meow, 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 then you shall have no pie. Three little kittens, they found their mittens and they began to cry. Oh, mother dear, see here, for we have found our mittens. Put on your mittens, you silly kittens, and you shall have some pie.
Okay, that calmed me down. Yeah, it's cool, Kathy. Between you and Rachel, though, I was off to the races. Like, you know, what the fuck was going on? So, back to what I was trying to talk about. I'm trying to, and this is a common theme. Okay. You just did it again, Rachel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to not make any more comments for right now. You are welcome to try, Lisa. So let me explain, because I'm getting a little bent, and I don't think I'm not getting through to why, and it's fucking me up. When you start having these 3-letter sentences, I don't know what the fuck you're doing. So to stop communicating using my comment section, telling somebody you're their aunt, you didn't? Hi, it's your Aunt Rachel. The fuck, AIT. It stops working. What? I didn't. So, here. Don't. Not I didn't. Don't. Hi, everybody. So there's a podcast, and it's live, and I'm not, I'm not like, I'm not a monk, right? I was a monk. I'm not a monk. I'm going to talk about that in a second. So here's the thing. When I've tried desperately to stay focused and things disrupt my focus, I'm not that good at handling it. So what I do is I get upset. Doesn't matter who got me upset. Anybody listening would recognize I'm upset. Hi, Kathy. So now I'm chilling like a villain. And I'm going to go back for the third time to what I wanted to talk about, which seems kind of pointless because the whole thing was don't get hung up. Don't get bent out of shape if you can help it. And then the first fucking thing is I'm in a position to get bent out of shape. So when I was living as a Buddhist monk, novice, really. So there is a distinction. You're a novice monk, but you're not a monk. So what happens is I enter into this temple in Tucson, Arizona. And the name of the temple, they all have names. Wat Buddha Metta, which means Buddha of the Buddha and loving kindness. Okay, Buddha Metta. And I lived there. Wasn't a lot of stimulation. In fact, there wasn't a lot of stimulation. There was a lack of stimulation. And here's the thing. When I was getting ready to disrobe, that's what you do. You disrobe. That's the technical part of stopping being a monk. And so when I was leaving, the abbot asked me, what did you think of your time here? And I said, when the bomb squad arrives at an incident, they get out and they have these big, thick boots and helmets and lots of protective gear as they approach the potential bomb. Well, let's just call it a bomb. Forget about potential. This isn't, I'm not in court. As they approach the bomb, they're padded. I said, the way I feel about the time I spent here, I felt like the robes acted as a containment for the bomb that was within. This upheaval that was consistent and persistent my whole life that I talked about yesterday. See, I can follow myself if you allow me to. So I'm volatile. That's always been an issue for me. I'm volatile, and sometimes I launch quickly, sometimes slowly, but I'll launch, right? And so I told him that this time spent in the temple was really a time for me to suppress. But suppress is not the right word. It was more to recognize and acknowledge what this volatility, and to keep it contained within this mindfulness. This practice of mindfulness that originates or is facilitated by meditation for me. Other people may get the same results with some other medication. I don't know. So for me, it was kind of reversed, whatever you call it, that the saffron robes served as a to kind of cover up this upheaval that was always persistent in my life. He thought that was interesting. Of course, he never heard that. First off, he never had me, and they don't really get a whole lot of people like me in temples practicing. You dig? So I'm an American. He was used to Thai novices. It was a whole different exchange culturally for him. Ray Dean, I've said it before, was the only one amongst you that was a witness to some of this challenge. Ray Dean, Gary, and I think John, we went down to 4th Avenue, 4th Street. I don't know which it's called, in Tucson. It's where I like to go on Tuesday afternoon when Gary and Ray Dean would come to the temple, have lunch with us, and then I would leave with them for the afternoon to go out and do something. But I had to be in robes. I was always a monk. I had to adhere to all the rules. I couldn't chew, so I couldn't eat. So we would probably go, and I think we would go to a place like the Epic, Radine, if you're here, and you guys would get a dessert and some coffee, and I would just sit there and, So one day, uh, these guys, these two people, um, would they not would they picked up this bag that another, and they looked like homeless people. Well, a homeless guy had left it there, or he looked homeless, street guy. He had gone into the coffee house, and Martine was there too, huh? And so the first guy went into the restaurant, coffee house, left his little satchel or whatever. This man and woman came by. They picked up and started walking, and I thought, yeah, that's weird. But they weren't running. They didn't seem to be hiding it. They were just walking away. So I thought maybe this is, drug deal or something. He leaves it there. They pick it up. I don't know, right? He comes out and his bag is gone, and he's flipping out. He is yelling, "Who stole my bag? Who stole it?" Well, I know who stole your bag. So I go up to him. I say, I saw who took your bag. I know what they look like. And he starts yelling at me. You know, one of these. Why did you let him do that? And I'm sitting there trying to, how you say, navigate without bloodshed. Because once you start sticking your finger in my face, kind of thing, my auto reply, yes, is to snatch your hand, or at the very least to threaten to snatch your hand. And I told him, you need to calm down. I'm trying to help you, and you need to not be yelling at me, right? And I went after these people. I caught up with them. He went running off, screaming. I mean, nobody. This was not mental health row. And I went up to these other people, and I'm following them. I'm trying to get him, and they're like, what are you doing? And they get to start challenging me. And I said, well, you took that guy's stuff, And at first they were trying to be hostile. And then they were like, listen, we know him. We're just playing a joke on him. He said, well, he's not laughing. So in very short order, two different males of street males were venting hostile towards me. And I was challenged. I had to come up with a new response. Because I know, I don't want to embarrass the temple, and I'm in robes. I got to be cautious what I say, what I do, because I represent. And so that went on at various times throughout the months that I lived there. And like I said, Radine was there, Gary was there, and so they saw him. They saw that day. I saw him on a regular basis. I mean, and if anybody knew how volatile I was, most you don't live with me. Most you have never lived with me. Most you have never spent near the amount of time that Gary spent with me, or Gary and Radine. And, I think they were there when I tap danced on the Mustang in the parking lot. That was more to my liking. The guy almost ran me over with his car. He got out, he went in the movie theater, and I tap danced or did something to his Mustang, which involved many dents. And that was while I was studying Buddhism, by the way. I traveled a long, difficult path for me. And yesterday, when I was talking to you all, my soliloquy or whatever you call, I said, I don't know which of these events that we all experience that shape us. Some of you may have already come to the conclusion that you suck in relationships of the heart. Some of you may have already come to the conclusion that when you get into a relationship with somebody romantically, it's often going to be disastrous, because historically it has been, but you're not quite sure why. You're not sure what's causing it. Are you sabotaging it? Are you just picking out people that will sabotage it? Now, some of you have been in long-term relationships. Chris and Becky, together forever. Mark and Ann. Actually, most of you who are in a relationship have probably been in a relationship a fairly long time. And then there's a bunch of us that are either single, widowed or widower, and then also some of you who are in a relatively new relationship. So you may not be questioning that, but I do. There's a term, oh, your picker is broken. Like you're picking women that are going to be, it's not going to work out by definition. And anybody sane, looking at the situation, evaluating the two of you, would have come to the conclusion that's not going to work out, right? So, Ray Dean just had a memory. I remember this. It was curious that he would leave his bag outside the coffee house, and even curious how he refused to go with you when you started going towards the two with the bag. Yeah. Instead, he ran off just screaming about somebody stole his bag, So I don't know if he ever got it back. They promised me they were going to give it back to him. They promised me that, Ray Dean. So, what events? So some of you will recognize this. You've gotten into a situation where it got hostile, and you just very quickly just said, yeah, this isn't worth it. You either turned around, walked away, or you said something conciliatory. You made it go away verbally or by body language. Somehow you just said, this isn't worth this kind of trouble. Maybe you were driving your car and somebody cut you off and you got really angry for a second and you wanted to retaliate, but you said, that's just going to make the situation dangerous. Whatever. You had this ability to back away from hostility or negativity. It didn't even have to be hostility, and just be pure negativity. Somebody saying or doing something that gives you a bad feeling, that icky feeling. And so how did you become somebody who disengages from conflict? How come you're somebody that when you were working for others and there would be conflict, you were the person that typically either found a way to stop the conflict, or you were the person that just simply wouldn't engage and be like, why don't you tell them you're mad? And you're like, it's not worth it. It wasn't that you weren't mad. You just said it's not worth it. And then why are there people who are just completely passive aggressive? And then why is there somebody who's just completely aggressive? What does it take? If we're all starting kind of with the same size of a brain, pretty much, right? I don't know what makes a genius. I don't think they have bigger brains. I think more of their brain is synapsing, if that's such a word. So I think maybe, and I don't know nothing about, is that biology? I know nothing about any of the sciences. So I'm going to say I assume we're all born with a brain about the same size. And that what distinguishes a Einstein or a Schweitzer or somebody like that is that they have more access to more parts of their brain than the average person might. And then somebody who's slower, for whatever reason, there's parts of their brain that are inaccessible. Pathways aren't working. That could be the result of drugs their parents took that affected them when they were embryonic. It could be something they remember lead poisoning. All these kids on the south side of Chicago where lead paint had been used for years and years. And as the chain was shipping and nobody was fixing it, these young black children were eating it and getting lead poisoning. And there's a mandate in the Chicago building code. You can't, and it's been this way for many years, you couldn't use lead-based paint on the interior of a house. It was forbidden. So it was a code violation. So how much external forces account for who we become? What sorts of internal influences account for who we become? But why? Why? So the value for me today in things like meditation is I'm sitting back and I'm looking, and I really, 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 really recognize that I Left to my own devices, I am clearly out of control in one way, shape, form, or another. Doesn't mean I'm raging. Just means I'm out of control. It means that my ability to control my behavior is intimately tied to my thoughts, and my thoughts are typically, or at least frequently, not healthy. So the value in my meditation has been to sit back, look at the thoughts, and intellectually recognize, that's not cool, man. That's not healthy. That's not wholesome. And then to step away and go, well, you know what? I can wait you out, unhealthy thought. If I sit here and I focus on the breath, eventually this unhealthy thought it'll just disappear. I mean, it literally dissipates into where I know not, because it had no substance. It was like a cloud, and the cloud passed, and you can't go capture a cloud. And I can't capture where that thought went. But it became really important to me to recognize that I didn't know where it went. And it really, that was important, because if I didn't know where it was going, I didn't own that, right? Because if I owned it, if I was controlling it, then I would file it away where I could get to it when I was ready to. But most of my thoughts happen in a flash. They come, they go. So that how can they be me? And if they're me, how could I be watching them as if I'm an observer? Uh, I think it was you guys were talking about the untethered soul, I believe, yesterday. And I have that book, and I think in there it says, in order to look at your thoughts, there has to be subject matter or something. I don't know. There's an explanation. There's a relationship that, by definition, it can't be unified. One has to be the observer. One has to be the observed. Thus, you shouldn't believe that you are your thoughts. This was critical to my reformation and rehabilitation. It was critical for me to realize that of all the enemies I had accumulated over the years, and I didn't have a lot of enemies, but I had enough, that I was my greatest enemy, that my mind was had gotten me into so much troubles which for years afterwards I lamented, because it was troubles I never wanted, or at least I didn't think I wanted afterwards. Um, uh, Ray Dean must have heard Gary say to me at least a dozen times about the tuxedo business. I did, you know. Well, I told you it was a bad idea. Now, I believe that Gary said that when he told me that. I don't remember him saying that. Doesn't matter. What I'm saying is, why would your thinking on the subject be better than my thinking on the subject? Because who's out for me more than me? Well, I can tell you who. Most anybody almost. There's the people that hold me in affection, that really care about me, that will say things to me like, that's not a good idea. There are the people who are fairly neutral about me, but because of the human nature, they tend to be gracious and generous, who, if you're engaged with them and they see something that's going to be harmful, they'll probably tell you. And then there's the people who just don't like you. They're probably going to scoff at you. They might even laugh at you when you get into it. Okay? My journey involved being able to open the ears. What do they say? Take the cotton out your ears and put it in your mouth. Listen more, talk less. I like that. I like that. And so learning that my thoughts, I never believed I had, and I keep using Gary because we had so many of these conversations. Gary, I had far more education than Gary and far more expansive experience in dealing with the outside world. Gary had this internal world that was rich beyond imagination, and his knowledge was so expansive. So here you're talking to somebody frequently whose frame of reference is in some ways very similar because we came from the same neighborhood and all that. But what happens is, um, While I never believed in an intellectual superiority over somebody like Gary, because I knew he was smarter than me, I believed in the superiority of my concern for my well-being. In other words, I believed that nobody would look after me more than I would, and that I would, of course, think in a way that was intended to be beneficial to me, to make my life richer and better. And it's just simply not true. When I am allowed to step back and watch this mind at work, I'm like, why would you want me to do that? Right? Why would I? What would be the payoff now? Right? Why do I define myself as a victim in romantic relationships when I get my feelings hurt? See, the old Ken would go, oh, that bitch, I can't believe she did that. Oh, she really did a number on me. That was my frame of reference. By stepping back and recognizing that, uh, not intellectually, because intellectually I always knew that I was bringing myself harm, right? In the sense that, nobody's that good a victim. I mean, when I looked at my life and saw how many times I allowed myself to be a victim, I remember thinking to myself, nobody's that good at being a victim, dude. You are a contributing factor. Whoa. Years later, I realized I wasn't a contributing factor. I was the factor. That when I get my feelings hurt, it's because I did something. I had an exchange with another human being, and it hurt. It hurt because of some attitude or some position that I was clinging to, whether it was clinging to being right or clinging to being sensitive or clinging to being more invested than you are, like in a relationship, right? Oh, I'm more invested in a relationship than she is. Uh, I I've put more into this than they did. I've been nicer than they were. Whatever it is, it was all bullshit. It was all bullshit. It was just Ken's design. I could have put my little signature at the bottom of that painting. That painting that represents that relationship or that transaction, that exchange that I walked away from feeling bad and feeling like a victim. And it was really important for me to get the freak out of that victim role, man. Whoosh. You know what I'm saying? I mean, man, once you allow yourself to be a victim, it's a downward spiral. Look what the world has done to me. Look what God's done to me. Look what my friends did to me. Look what Jesus did to me. Whatever it is, that I'm just rambling about who. It just doesn't matter. The only person that has that capacity to do me in as I have been done in was me. All the monies I lost, I signed the checks. I've never been stuck up at the point of a gun and had to write an expense. I've been robbed, small amounts, not by a gun, usually just a group of kids when I was a kid, and they would rob me, my lunch money, whatever. As an adult, nobody was in a position to rob me of any significant amounts of cash. Maybe they broke in and took shit. All those checks I wrote for tuxedo business or for automotive business, frozen yogurt business, and more. I wrote all those checks. I, in my infinite wisdom, decided that these were financially good ideas, good investments. And I would do extensive amounts of homework on a lot of this stuff. It wasn't like I didn't do my homework. I didn't do due diligence, mind you. I did a lot of homework. Like when I did frozen yogurt, we ran into this company, had a really quality product. We really liked their store, me and my family. We did a lot of research. I brought in a financial expert guy, looked at their books, looked at their income, and he said, yeah, I think based upon blah, 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 you could make a profit doing this. And a year later, I was beat to shit. It wasn't a good investment at all. But I did my homework. But at the end of the day, I'm the one that said, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and buy this store, and I'm going to turn it around. Part of that is because when I bought the gun range, It was just a month or so into these three guys started. Then I became the fourth guy. Then I pulled away. Then two guys. And I ended up being kind of essentially the founder and builder of what became this very good business. And there was all kinds of fraudulent manipulations that had taken place by one of the owners. And I overcame all these obstacles, many obstacles. I thought my way through it. I fought my way through it. So I got this arrogance, which was derived from my success. And so I'm like, give me a losing proposition, baby. If I think I can make it, I'll make it, right? So I bought this nightclub, two nightclubs that were in distress, three nightclubs that were in distress. Down the drain, my investment down the drain, and on and on and on. You know, there's a reason these businesses were in distress. The gun range was a different issue. It wasn't in distress. It just needed to be built. So nothing to get hung about. When I recognize that I'm creating the chaos, that I'm creating the mishigas, that I'm creating this environment that overheats too easily, that can become bitter tasting rather readily. When I recognize that almost anything negative is my own doing, then the answer is nothing to get hung about. Because the reality is, I know this reality, this too shall pass. Ooh, it just did. You know, this guy used to wear this T-shirt that said, let go or you'll get dragged or something like that, right? And it was a guy hanging on to a bumper of a car, and it was a cartoonish kind of thing on his T-shirt. You could tell this person's hanging on. You could tell the movement, right? That somebody's being dragged. Well, I'm not into being dragged anymore. But in order to not be dragged, I have to understand that I don't have any thoughts that are worth clinging to. I don't have any aspirations that are worth grasping. I can look at a desire or a need. I can evaluate what route maybe I need to take in view of that kind of thinking. And then I might even decide, okay, it's worth pursuing without grasping. In other words, that when it doesn't work, if it doesn't work, well, it's just what they say, you haven't failed. When you fall down, you haven't failed until you don't get back up. Well, that's partly true. Sometimes you need to stay the fuck down until it all blows over. You need to stay, just lay there. You had your ass whooped. Stop getting up. But I get the point. I get it. You only acknowledge failure when you've given up on it. But then, see, in my life, giving up on stupid stuff is success. And that's the problem. I thought that being tenacious, I thought that trying to grasp victory out of the jaws of defeat, that was the way to go. That would help my self-esteem. Once again, I would be able to demonstrate that, yeah, I got this. It was very hard when it all fell apart in 2008. It was hard to call my mom. She didn't need to know, but she needed to know. It's my mom. And I've just lost a shitload of money. I'm not asking her for money. It's just that she always says, how are you doing? And so instead of telling her I'm fine, which I did for about a year while I was desperately trying to salvage what I had, finally I said, well, actually I screwed up. I lost most of the money I made at the gun range, and I lost most of what you gave me when Dad passed away. And I said, I didn't do well. Because within the context of the family, you understand, that made me a failure. So for me, letting go of this tenacity, this propensity to just keep pushing, was not it wasn't always my strong suit. I guess it helps when you're defending somebody in a criminal trial. If you're, constantly pushing and you're tenacious and refuse to back down, you know, if you do it well, and I did, then, as long as I didn't lose the case with my aggressiveness, but I didn't. I was very good. And that was another part of the illusion. Ken is this bulldog. You can hire him. He'll sink his teeth at your adversary's ass and he won't turn it loose. You're charged with a crime. You need to talk to this guy because he knows what it is to be charged with crime. So there it was, this kind of thing where I defined myself by my successes, but many of those successes also became the definition of my failures. Now I just rambled. I mean, I don't know. Kathy says you seem to think more deeply than the average person, and I find it most interesting. I wasn't trying. I don't think so. I think I just express what you're thinking a lot. I think you think just as deeply. But you have done well still, and Mom needed to see you healthy. Yes, Radine, you're right. That wasn't going to be possible if I'd have continued to sink into the kind of depression and when this was happening, Radine, I was in Tucson and I couldn't sleep. You guys were I think we had maybe closed down the warehouse. Maybe we hadn't. I don't know at what point, but I was no longer sleeping. I couldn't sleep through a night. I would wake up and I would quickly, without any prompting, an immediate inventory of my well-being, which was tied to my financial stuff, and I knew I was in deep trouble, and it all kind of coalesced when I went to the bookshelf just to find something to read, so that I wouldn't just sit in bed with my eyes open, as so many of you have done, I know. And I found a book, and I pulled the book. I'm just sitting there looking for something that'll calm me down. And that's when I found Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. And I was reading it, standing in my office, big bookshelf. And I'm like, oh, you know what? This is helpful. Because he was talking about leave the pain of yesterday in yesterday. Don't carry it with you today, because you can't do anything about yesterday's pain. Don't make yesterday's pain today's pain, kind of thing. Don't make tomorrow's anxiety ruin today. Be in the now, the power of now. And I began to practice the power of now. And I began to come out of what was for me, an emotionally desperate situation. And then, as some of you know, Eckhart Tolle talks a lot about meditation. And I got into doing meditation on my own. And then I got into looking for a teacher. And then I met the monk, and it all snowballed. But you're right. My mom did need to see me healthy. I mean, for her sake and my sake. And yes, I did pull out of it through this recognition of how I got there and what a mess I'd made and how it was my mess. And it was over. I mean, not over, but, the money was lost. And so what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to go hike. What else am I supposed to do? I tried to get a job, couldn't get a job. Nobody wanted to hire me. I tried lots of jobs. I mean, that didn't work. I did get that one job with that crazy lady for 90 days trying to run her treatment facility. Anyways, so it was important, or at least it was fortuitous, that I had the resources internally and externally to come out of this tailspin and be present for people like my mom, my sister, you people, as needed. I was able to rise to the occasion because I was able to put the me behind me, the grasping of what about me, and to recognize that me in the context of us is a much healthier person if I express my care and concern for you. In other words, if I'm in touch with my humanity, participating in this community, then self-esteem will arise from that. If you want self-esteem, do esteemable acts. Participating in a community and being a good member of that community builds esteem. Sitting home agitated about how much money you lost when most of your friends never had that much money to lose wasn't going to make me better at anything. Nothing. All right. It's time to wrap it up. I got to go teach meditation now. Speaking of meditation, it's Wednesday night. What can I tell you? So thank you all for being here. Thank you all for listening and your comments. And by the way, if you got here late and you heard enough and you want to make a comment, you can. I'll see it later. Later tonight, whenever you post, it sends me a notification if you're on Facebook. If you're on YouTube and you read this and you're like, what the hell was going on? On Facebook, you can also comment, and I will also get a notification from YouTube telling me that there's a comment. I always finish with a quick metta, not always this quick, but since I'm over my time and I'm supposed to be somewhere else soon, I think we'll do the abbreviated version of bringing our hands together before our hearts, closing our eyes, bowing our heads, and taking a deep breath. And thinking to ourselves, may I be happy, healthy, free from harm, free from anger, anxiety, and fear. May this practice bring me to a place of greater peace and comfort. May my mother and father, and all my family, and all my friends be happy, healthy, free from harm. May they too find a path that brings them to a place of greater peace and comfort in their lives. And those persons I harbor any ill will towards, I can give up my ill will, my resentments for a minute a day at least, so I can send these persons goodwill. May they be happy, healthy, free from harm. May they be living their lives at this very moment, comfort, peace. And to all living beings throughout the entire universe, may they all be the recipient of our collective goodwill, all humans and non-humans. Be happy, healthy, free from harm. Be safe, comfortable, and at peace. Satu, Satu, Satu. Kathy, I hope you're right. It was a great podcast. Mark and Ann, thank you for being here. Joan, thanks, Ken. Wait, you just disappeared. I really admire your ability when it comes to self-reflection and evaluation. It's rare, especially for men. Sorry if that sounds sexist, just my experience. Now I hear that a lot from women, that a lot of the men that came into their lives are not always measure up. Well, thank you, Ann. Thank you for letting me know. Thank you all, Rachel and Raydeen and Kathy and Debbie and Lisa and I don't know who else was here, Chris and Becky, and some of you didn't make any comments, so I didn't know you were there. But I think I got everybody, Lisa, Debbie. If I didn't, I'll see you tomorrow. We'll try again. Peace out. If you want to join me in meditation, just message me now. Good night. Good night, Debbie.